with the
No worries.
okay. So to begin with, the word technology as we know it was first codified in the ancient Greek era. To be precise, it was during the 5th to 1st centuries BC, as we can see on the timeline. So here the word techne was used to mean craft, skill, or art. The famous philosopher Aristotle viewed it as rational making distinct from theoretical knowledge, also known as episteme. Technologia was used to signify the, the discussion on the crafts, mainly the crafts being in motion. The next major evolution of the definition of the word can be seen in England. So, this is during the early modern ages as we speak. This is the 17th century when the first industrial revolution is also going on. So, in this era, in the 1610s, a discourse on the arts and not the physical tools. This is exactly the word that was used by Sir Francis Bacon, and this was used to define the the new technological advancements and the early signs of industrial production, as was seen in Bacon's house or Solomon's house. These were centers of crafts. The machine called spinning jenny also came in later on, and this is how the word technology was being defined in England. And it is pertinent to note here that England was the place in the place in the world where this advancement of mass production was going on in the most steady pace compared to any other region, even in Europe. The next major evolution we can see took place in Europe in the 18th to 19th century. Johann Beckmann was a very crucial philosopher and a very crucial identifying point if we are going to look at the evolution of the definition of the word technology. He formalized the word technology as the science of trades, as methods, practical arts, the art of manufacturing. The word technique here signified specific techniques and methods. These terms emerged when the cameralist administrative and statecraft context, that is, uh, Europe was undergoing many political upheavals during that time, and due to the uh, total concentration of wealth from the colonies was there in Europe. So technological advancement was also going on in a steady pace. And so we can see the emergence of the words technique and technology later on. The next major phase in the evolution of the definition came from the United States of America in the early to the mid 19th century. The meaning that we had from England at that time was broadened to include the study of mechanical and industrial arts. Works like the Bigelow's Elements of Technology, published in the year 1829, and the founding of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the year 1861, remarked the institutionalization of the practical science and engineering. And this is how we can see the baby steps towards technology as we know it. It is also pertinent to mention here that United States of America would very soon see the mass production through the Ford company, and this was all a sequel to this way of defining the word technology that we can see from the early to the mid 19th century in the United States of America. So once again, in the from the early to the mid 20th century, we can find the second industrial revolution going on, whereby the word technology was being used to identify the integrated industrial systems such as mass productions, factories, electricity, machines, infrastructure, and most importantly, corporate production systems. And this is also when the Model T of Ford was also coming about, and the United States of America slowly becoming the hub of the main evolution of technology. And this brings us the next step in the evolution of this definition brings us to our present era, which can roughly be traced from the middle of the 20th century to our present day 21st century. which is also coined by scholars to be the era of digital technology or high technology. So by 1956, high technology appeared. Information technology followed from 1958, and it now includes terms such as digital tools, computing, biotech, nano, and internet systems. It is also very pertinent to mention here that um, during the 1970s, uh, experimental the first experimental internet systems was being used by the US military. And later on, as the development further proceeded, we see the advent of social media and fast forward to artificial intelligence and machine learning. And in this era, which is the fast-paced era of 21st century, where also the word technology is also including and encompassing things such as Elon Musk's Neuralink, which is an idea that a chip can be used for by human beings to through the cerebellum part of our brains to access the internet and to absorb information directly. So this is how the the word technology has went on from being just a word to define arts, specific arts in motion, all the way to the 21st century, where we're identifying things such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, or even bio artificial intelligence into the word technology. This shows that the word technology has, in fact, broadened to a very large extent, and it remains to be seen uh, to which point and what exactly more can the word embed and encompass in the days to come. Uh, this ends our presentation.
Technologies over the time. Now, there's a lot of technology that has been invented over the past centuries. So, for a better understanding, we distributed our timeline through industrial revolutions, and today in our presentation we will discuss the laws and policies made to regulate those technologies during each industrial revolution. So, let's get started. The first in Initially, we'll talk about the first industrial revolution. And in the time period for first industrial revolution takes place from 1760 to 1840. And this was the time of steam powered technology, where machines were made using the power of steam. Now, because it was very early, there wasn't the ruling system isn't as advanced as now, but initially there were customary rules. Laws were primarily oral and customary, which were passed down through generations to regulate the technologies during the first industrial revolution, specifically the steam powered technologies. These customs regulated essential aspects of life, such as food sharing, hunting practices, and responsibilities within the group. Social order was maintained through tribal leadership, often led by elders or most experienced individuals. These leaders guided decision making and resolved disputes based on tradition and collective interest. And during this era, conflicts were resolved through consensus or mediation, often involving respective members of the group. And in order to make the rules effective, there were punishments as well. And and at the end, and finally, there were also collective responsibility and strong emphasis on group survival, cooperation. Laws and social expectation promoted in unity, equal contribution, and mutual support rather than individual ownership of or competition of technologies during this age. And after the first revolution, we moved on to the second industrial revolution, which took place around the late 1800s to early 19, until 1950. And during this time, second revolution, the technology was run through electricity powered technology, and it was also known as the mass production era. And quite a lot of significant laws were made in this industrial revolution. One of the notable laws that were made were the public utility laws, which began establishing public utility commissions to regulate electricity rates and service standards in the United States. Outside United States, in the United Kingdom, Electric Lighting Acts were made, which was the world's first attempt to regulate electricity supply. It allowed local councils, private companies to supply electricity under government license. If we move away from country-based rules, there is also global safety and standardization policies, such as International Electrotechnical Commission (IEC), which was founded in 1906, which developed international standards for electrical technology and help standardize voltage safety regulations and component design globally. In addition to that, there was also ILO conventions, which made sure labor safety and related to electrical work and industrial hazards. Then, if we move on to third industrial revolution, we talk about time zones between the late 1900s to early 2000s. And in this law, the industrial revolution involves the era of computing and mass automation and communicating technologies. And one of the laws which in regard to our country was very significant was Bangladesh Telecommunication Act 2001, which modernized the regulatory framework for telecommunications in Bangladesh. Secondly, Information and Communication Technology Act ICT, which was made during 2006 and the first dedicated law in Bangladesh to address cybercrime, digital signatures, and electronic transaction. If we move out of Bangladesh, there was US Telecommunications Act of 1996, which was significant deregulation to foster competition in the US telecom and internet markets. There is also EU Data Protection Directive, which established comprehensive rules for personal data processing across the EU and a precursor to modern privacy laws. Finally, US Digital Millennium Copyright Act is also influential, which address copyright in the digital age. Finally, if we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it's from mid 2010s to now, and it involves advanced technology that merges the physical and digital world. And if we talk about laws regulating those kind of technology, the first significant law is GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation by EU at 2018, which is a comprehensive data protection law setting global standards for personal data. There is also EU AI Act, which classifies AI system by risk and assets compliance requirements. There is also Markets and Crypto Assets Regulation, which established a regulatory framework for crypto. There is also Cybersecurity Act 2023, which replaced the previous digital security laws to address cybercrime. And finally, there is National Internet of Things, or Strategy 2020, which is the Bangladeshi law, and it was formulated to guide Bangladesh's transformation into digitally empowered nation through IoT adoption. So these are the law in through this presentation, we try to present some significant and notable laws and policies that were made to regulate the laws and technologies in the different industrial revolution. This is all from our end. Thank you for giving me the floor and listening to my presentation.